Thank you and welcome to the Legal Table. I am your host, Crystal Jamerson, and I'm the Community Engagement and Outreach Coordinator for Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota. The Legal Table was created to educate you on your rights, your responsibilities, along with introduce you to community organizations that have resources to help you along the way. Today, I'm very excited. We are here to address expungements and pardons in Minnesota. Many people aren't aware that expungements and pardons are, two different entities and processes. Many people don't know the difference between either of them either. But today we wanted to bring you this information because having a criminal record can prohibit you from getting a real job that can assist you, can assist your family from leveling up, being able to thrive, being able to be gainfully employed. Many of the clients feel that a criminal record kind of puts a damper on their way of life, and you shouldn't have to live in that shadow. So we're here to help. We're trying to make sure that the people in our counties that we serve are aware of the process and the resources available for its community members. As you know, Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota, we serve 22 counties and we have 3 different offices where we assist clients in navigating the justice system and provide low-income individuals with their civil legal needs. Outside of providing full representation for clients, we have legal kiosks in about 87 locations in our service area, and this provides people assistance with virtual courts, legal documents. We also have a justice bus, which is our mobile clinic that allows us to get into communities where maybe the transportation is limited to provide legal assistance. We also have self-help clinics to assist with the do-it-yourself type of court forms. We hope to bring you more information about civil legal topics throughout the year, so make sure to continue to join us and pass along information to your coworkers and to clients. With that being said, I want to introduce our 2 guests today. We have Jessica Faust. This is our Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota staff attorney. And we also have Christy Johnson, and she is from the F5 project. Really quick, just a little bit of housekeeping rules. Please make sure to put all the questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Also, this is a quick hour-long meeting, so if you would like more information, each panelist will have their information listed at the end of the meeting. This meeting will also be available on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. So if you have coworkers that were unable to make it, please make sure to check out our channel, and it should be listed on there, along with all of our other broadcasts. So if for some reason you wanted to quickly go back and figure out a couple of things about evictions or anything like that, it's all available, okay? So without further ado, I want to turn the mic over to Jessica.
All right, let me see here. Okay. Share my screen. All right, is that working? Can you see my presentation? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
it's in presentation view. If you want to expand it.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like that, maybe?
Check it out. There you go. Looks good.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So my name is Jessica Fons, like Crystal said. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota. I mostly do housing court, but I was a public defender before working for Legal Services, so I'm definitely interested in expungements, and this was a fun presentation to prepare for because I learned a lot while I was getting ready for this. So I'm not, an expert by any means, but I do have some background in criminal law, and we do expungements with legal services as well. So if you've got any clients or you yourself have questions about expungements or pardons, certainly give us a call. This is a lot of information and I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. So I do apologize for that. But like Crystal said, if you've got questions, we'll save those for the end. And then if you've got more in-depth questions, we can certainly talk after the presentation as well. So just kind of an overview. The first part will be about expungements. We'll talk about what that means, the benefits of expungement, eligibility, and the process. And then part two will be about pardons. Same stuff. What is a pardon, eligibility, and then the process of applying for and possibly getting a pardon. All right, so criminal expungements, expungements means sealing records, so it doesn't mean erasing a criminal record, but it seals it so that when your name is searched in like a background check or something like that, an expunged record will not appear. Um, Courts can order the unsealing of records and like certain job interviews, if you're interviewing for a federal government position or something like that, they can access expunged records. But for the most part, those records are sealed. Some of the benefits, like Crystal has mentioned, increased employment and educational opportunities if those past convictions aren't showing up on a background check. Same with housing prospects, getting um, rental apartments or houses, reduce stigma and social barriers. In some cases, it can lower your insurance rates, like if it's a driving related offense. And then just having the peace of mind of knowing that people can't look you up and find old criminal convictions. To be eligible, the laws are changing or have changed recently, so the process is a little bit different. So now, as of I think the law passed August 2023 and it just took effect fully on July 1st of this year, but there are a lot of criminal convictions that are eligible for automatic expungement. So what that means is no petition is required for those offenses, and I'll get more into that. And then any other offenses that are not automatic expungement eligible can be expunged unless they're ineligible through a petition. And then there are some ineligible offenses. So offenses that can never be expunged, no matter how long it's been or the circumstances. If that's a conviction on someone's record, it will stay there. So automatic expungements, it's so like I said, you don't have to file a petition. The courts will automatically do it for you. I was reading on the Attorney General's website, and most of, if not all, convictions that are eligible for automatic expungement have already gone through that process. Like I said, the law was passed in August of last year, so it's been almost a year. Um, if there is a conviction that you believe is eligible for automatic expungement and it's still showing up, I would recommend getting in touch with a lawyer because there may be an issue with it. So the eligible offenses for automatic expungement are if the case was dismissed or if someone was exonerated, so found not guilty at a trial, if there was a successful completion of a diversion program, so like drug court or housing or rather theft court. And then if there was a conviction and the conviction was a qualifying offense, no new convictions other than petty misdemeanors, and then no new charges other than petty misdemeanors at the end of the applicable waiting period. That number three is probably a little confusing, and I'm going to get more into that. Because the new structure is just a little bit more confusing because there are different types of expungements and different processes for different convictions. So the qualifying offenses for automatic expungement, any petty misdemeanor, so that's like your lowest level charge or conviction. The exception to that is traffic regulations, and it says relating to the operation of parking, relating to the operation or parking of motor vehicles. So basically, any like moving or non-moving traffic violation is probably not eligible for automatic expungement. And that's likely because the DMV kind of regulates, when your license is going to get suspended if you've had too many points, that sort of thing. Not to say you can petition for an expungement of your traffic record, but it wouldn't be eligible for automatic expungement. Most misdemeanors are also eligible for automatic expungement. However, there are a number of exceptions. including DUIs, orders for protection or harassment restraining order violations, domestic abuse charges or convictions. Some of those kind of more serious misdemeanors are not eligible for automatic expungement, especially when there's a victim. So crimes where there's some kind of violence or harassment. Certain cannabis offenses are also eligible for automatic expungement. Those are the crimes that are no longer crimes after marijuana was legalized in Minnesota. The two big ones are the possession of marijuana in a motor vehicle and possession or sale of small amounts of marijuana. Um, the other offenses that you can get expunged but are not eligible for automatic expungement must be petitioned for. So you have to file a petition with the court asking for expungement. To be eligible for this, you must have completed all terms of sentencing and have waited the applicable amount of time. And that there's a slide on that, but it's different depending on the level of offense. So examples of petition-based expungement cases are traffic violations, like I said, DUIs, theft. It also applies to felonies. So like theft under $5,000 is a felony, fifth degree possession of a controlled substance, receiving stolen property. Those are all eligible for expungement by petition. And these cases, DUIs are a little bit less likely to be expunged ultimately, but some of those lower level felonies, property crimes, drug crimes, the courts are more likely to expunge those through a petition. But they will take into consideration a number of different factors when making that call. So certain offenses are never eligible for expungement. Like I said, these are kind of your most serious cases, the offenses that require predatory offender registration. So murder, kidnapping, crimes where you're required to register as a sex offender, those can never be expunged. The applicable waiting period, this is the amount of time that a person has to wait between when all the conditions of their sentencing are met and when they can file either the expungement petition or when the automatic expungement would be triggered. So petty misdemeanors and misdemeanors, 2 years, gross misdemeanors, 3 years. Sorry, this is a mistake. Felonies. There's a list of felonies. They don't qualify for automatic expungement, but they are eligible for expungement, and their waiting period is 4 years. So it's really 5 years for felonies unless they are considered lower level felonies and are noted in the law, and then it is 4 years. I apologize for that mistake. And then the petition process. So if there's a conviction and it is not eligible for automatic expungement, but it is still eligible for expungement, then the person would have to file a petition. Forms to do this can be found at the Minnesota courts website, this link here, but if you just Google court forms expungement, it'll pop up. In the petition, there has to be all the identifying information, the reason for expungement, any rehabilitation steps taken, criminal record, if there are any pending criminal charges, prior request for expungement, that sort of stuff. And then the person would have to either pay the filing fee or get a fee waiver, that's the IFP waiver, and then file a petition and the proposed order. Again, the proposed order form can also be found on the court's website. And then serve the prosecutor's office, which can be done by mail. The court will set a hearing within 60 days. And then at the hearing, the court would make a decision after hearing the evidence hearing from anyone that can speak to kind of the reasons for expungement. The victims will have an opportunity to talk if there are any victims, and then the court will make a decision. If expungement is ordered, then the record would be sealed and public authorities would be required to enforce and monitor that expungement order. So there is kind of that um, you know, if expungement is ordered, there is a way to enforce it as well through the law. So at the hearing, this is what the court is instructed to consider when making decisions about whether to order expungement. The nature and severity of the offense, length of time, steps taken to rehabilitate, reasons for expungement, employment and community involvement. So this is a pretty, I would say, holistic look at not just the crime itself, but the circumstances surrounding the crime and what has gone on since then. So there's not a lot of limitations to what a person can present to the court when making an argument for expungement at a hearing. So now we get to pardons. Um, Pardons are a little bit different, or quite a bit different actually. So a pardon, instead of sealing the record, it actually sets aside the record. So it's as if it never happened. There are no convictions that are ineligible for a pardon. So anybody can request a pardon. It doesn't matter what the conviction was, as long as it's a conviction and as long as it's in Minnesota or a criminal conviction. So in Minnesota, petty misdemeanors are not considered criminal convictions. So you can't get a pardon on a petty misdemeanor. And then juvenile delinquency adjudications are also not considered criminal convictions. So those are also ineligible for pardons. Likewise, if your case was dismissed, then there's no conviction to pardon. So that would the more appropriate route would probably be an expungement. Um, Before requesting a pardon, a person has to wait at least 5 years since their sentence terms were met. So if that means probation was completed, incarceration period ended, completed all of the other requirements of the sentence, that's when the 5 year clock starts. So the pardon process is kind of broken up into two parts. There's the Clemency Review Commission, and then there's the Board of Pardons. So the Clemency Review Commission reviews applications kind of preliminarily and then makes recommendations to the Board of Pardons. Um, it's a pretty diverse group of members on the Clemency Review Commission. You can see here there's people from different nonprofits across the state, a mayor, judge, representatives from the county attorney's office, public defender's office, um, and then Perry Moriarty, professor at the University of Minnesota School of Law. So the 9 members of the Clemency Review Commission will review applications and then make their recommendation to the Board of Pardons, who makes that ultimate decision. So the Board of Pardons members are the governor, attorney general, and chief justice. The procedure for requesting a pardon, first you have to fill out the application. It's available online. You have to include all of your criminal convictions, including those outside of the state. So in other states, countries, or federal, those all have to be listed. You are allowed to include letters of support, other supporting documents, and just a note that pardon applications are public. So if, just keep that in mind. The first step is the Clemency Review Commission staff will review the application and make sure that it's complete, that the person is eligible, and then we'll schedule kind of a tentative hearing date, time, and location and give that to you. They do verify everything that's in that petition to make sure that all the information is accurate. They will contact the prosecuting attorney and the judge who sentenced the person requesting the pardon to see what their position is. They'll contact victims and then prepare a summary of the application for the members of the commission. Then the commission will finalize that hearing date. It will probably be over Zoom. However, there is if Zoom doesn't work, you can do it in person. The petitioner will have the opportunity to tell the members why they are a good candidate for a pardon. People can testify on your behalf. The commissioner members can ask questions. Just kind of keep in mind there will be a time limit. So I think these are typically scheduled for an hour, and you won't be granted extra time. So just use that wisely. And then the victims will have an opportunity to speak, and the commission will vote and then send their recommendation to the Board of Pardons. So the considerations that the commission keeps in mind are listed here. Again, it's similar to expungements in that it's more of a comprehensive or holistic look at the situation. Um, they will look at the crime, but they will also look at like the extent to which the applicant has accepted responsibility, um, if there's been rehabilitation efforts made, if there's medical concerns or the age of the applicant. So like if somebody's elderly or sick, that can also be taken into consideration. And then the recommendation, like I said, will be sent to the Board of Pardons. The Board of Pardons only meets 2 times a year, and they are the only uh, entity that has the power to grant a pardon. So in order for a pardon to be granted, the governor and at least one other board member must vote yes. So even if like the attorney general and the chief justice both vote yes, governor votes no, then it's a no. It has to be the governor and at least one other board member. So if the pardon is granted, the conviction is set aside and all records related to the conviction are automatically expunged. If it's denied, that 5-year wait period kicks in again. So there is the opportunity to reapply, but the person does have to wait at least 5 years in order to do so. And that is it. Like I said, questions, we'll have some time for questions at the end, so write them down. And then I'll hand it over, I think, to Christy for her portion.
Before we get into Christy, I want to say thank you so much, Jessica. That was a lot of information. I haven't ever had to go through an expungement or pardon process, but it is a lot of work. It is, it's just copious amounts of work. So I definitely have to hats off to attorneys in the area that are currently doing expungements. And yes, we do have some questions for you at the end. And if anyone else does have some questions for Jessica in regards to the presentation, feel free to throw those in the chat. We can get those to you as well. Thank you again. We're going to go ahead and skip over to Christy now from F5 Project, and she'll let us know a little bit about F5 and her experiences. Go ahead, Christy.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for having me today, guys. So I'm going to share a little bit about F5 in a second, but I also wanted to share a little bit about my experience applying for a pardon. I have kind of a lengthy criminal history from many years ago when I personally struggled with a lot of incarceration, addiction, so on and so forth. So I had just heard about a pardon not too long ago, and I was when I completed my application, it was extensive. I simply printed it off the internet, filled it out, had support letters. I will also share that one of the best support letters that you can have is also from a victim of your crime. So I included that in my application. I submitted my application in January. And I heard back last month, actually. So it took from January to June. Just want to kind of give you guys a realistic timeline because I know a lot of us want things to happen so fast. I heard back from the Clemency Review Committee, and in June, they scheduled my hearing in September. They did give me the option of attending online, but you know how powerful it is to be in person. So I will actually be going down to St. Paul for my hearing in September. The process from that is, I think they actually told me that I get about 15-20 minutes to present in front of the clemency board. And so they'll basically share, you know, what their vote is if they're going to approve it. And then that gets submitted to the Board of Pardons. The Board of Pardon, they also only meet twice a year. So they meet in December and January. And so basically what is going to happen after that is if the Clemency Review Committee approves my pardon, they send it off from September to, you know, the governor and his team. And when they meet in January, they're going to decide if they're going to grant that. So just realistically, if you guys are ever working with clients or if you know anybody that plans to apply for this, The realistic turnaround time is about a year. And again, any type of support letters, especially from victims, are very, very, very powerful. One thing I also wanted to add to Jessica's awesome presentation is the difference between expungements and pardons. I got really, really hung up on, well, should I do an expungement? Should I do a pardon? I'm so confused, and I have been, not going to lie, I've been kind of a pain in the butt to the Minnesota Board of Pardons, but I will say this, they are super responsive, you guys. If you have any questions, if any of your clients have any questions, if you're applying for one, they are amazing at their communication. And I asked them to specify what is the actual difference between an expungement and a pardon. And I'll just read you their response real quick, just so you guys can hear it. And again, this is directly from the Minnesota Board of Pardons at state.mn.us. So they shared, a pardon sets aside a conviction, meaning it is completely forgiven, and then all of the records are automatically sealed except for law enforcement jobs, background checks, court proceedings, so on and so forth. Like Jessica shared, it's pretty much as if it never happened. Now, an expungement seals the records. However, a lot of licensing authorities, so on and so forth, can actually kind of unlock it and still see it. And again, like Jessica said, there's a lot of differences. So when you're working with individuals, you're going to be able to kind of tell, what the differences are and what their best route of action is. I did not work with an attorney. I actually had a friend that went to a pardon hearing, and he was told that sometimes when attorneys can get involved, it can get a little hectic and technical. And so, if you know anybody, and they're just, they might want to consider doing it on their own, be there for assistance, absolutely. But it is a pretty easy process to do online, in terms of applying for it. And again, just wanted to share some information on what it's like to actually go through the process, because like Jessica said, it's intense and it's a lot. So super, super grateful for agencies like yours, Jessica, that are willing to kind of walk alongside somebody when they go through that process. So enough of that. I am going to now jump into this wonderful nonprofit that I work at. I've been a part of F5 Project for quite a long time. Super, super passionate about F5. I'm going to try to share a simple little PowerPoint that I have, just to kind of give you guys a visual of the things that I'm talking about, where we have services and stuff like that, and a little bit about our transitional living program as well. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Is that showing up okay in presenter mode or no?
It's showing up with you guys duplicated, so side by side. So,
Okay. Let's try this
if
a different way. Um, How about that?
Yep, that's better. Just make sure to press the presentation button so it's just bigger, because otherwise we could see your slides on the side.
Sure. Where is the presentation button?
Um, on the bottom right-hand corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that one right there, slideshow. I
Yep.
think that's the one you click, and it should bring you to it.
How's that look?
Hasn't changed yet, but you know what? That's okay if you wanted to continue to roll on that way. Otherwise, you may want to check the,
Interesting. Hmm.
oh, something's changing. Oh, well, let's see. On the top is that same presentation button. I don't know if that helps out either. Or view. Maybe you can click on view and there might be a slide.
Interesting. Let's see. I'll try this one more time, and if it
That's
doesn't
okay.
work,
And
we'll just wing it the kind of the messy visual way.
that's okay. That's all right. Any type of visual is always really, really great because it, kind of
Yeah.
helps us out a little bit. So thank you on that one.
Okay, well, interesting. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, I'm just going to try this again and hope for the best, but I have a feeling that it's probably going to turn out the same.
That's okay. That's fine. You just continue to rock it out. We're here with you. We're following.
Okay, we'll just do it like this. I'm not sure how it looks on your guys' end, but Hopefully this will suffice. So, okay, so F5 Project, you guys, was founded in 2016 officially by an individual who had a lot of amazing lived experience and was really kind of, after he turned his life around, he kept running into friends that were getting out of jail and they didn't have anywhere to stay. And so he started letting people sleep on his couch. And he got this crazy idea that, there are some gaps in the community and that we needed to do more things for the people that are trying to turn their lives around, right? As I've shared, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I kind of had a crazy past myself, and I cannot tell you how vital it is to have outside of the box thinking in the community to serve people, right? There's a lot of different pathways, whether that's clinical things or, holistic ways. And I think the importance of supporting people in the world is really kind of understanding what's going to work for them. And that's kind of our mission and our goal at F5 is to really support individuals and cheerleading them so much that they start to believe in themselves, right? So F5 kind of just started as a couple of transitional living homes in Fargo. Started kind of messy. We're just like, we're going to open up a house. We're going to see how it goes and just kind of hope for the best, right? It started with a men's house and then a women's house. And then F5 really kind of took off when we started fulfilling contracts with the state of North Dakota that offer, peer support, recovery support, employment services, things like that. So we have, again, as you can probably see on my screen, so when we serve people, if somebody walks through our door, we don't turn anybody away, whether they're a Minnesota resident or a North Dakota resident. We do have, North Dakota has a lot of different services in that we don't have in Minnesota. And just for example, so in North Dakota, we can provide people with care coordination, peer support. We're also a provider of, the 1959. I'll get into our actual programs in just a second. But again, we don't turn anybody away. We have individuals that come in that are hungry, that we'll give a meal to, or, people that are like, gosh, I have a warrant. I'm scared to turn myself in, and we literally help people regardless of what the circumstances are. We are a provider for Free Through Recovery, Community Connect, and the 1959. And keep in mind, these are our North Dakota services. So as long as somebody is living in North Dakota, there's a good chance that they're going to qualify for one of these programs. Now, there's a couple differences. Free Through Recovery is also a Department of Corrections contract, right? So the only individuals that qualify to be on Free Through Recovery are North Dakota residents, but they're also on probation or parole. Community Connect is kind of the sister program to that. Because, we were going through having to turn a lot of people away, as how the Free Through Recovery program was built because they weren't on probation or parole. We couldn't take people that were maybe on federal probation, and so Community Connect was birthed with the idea of being able to serve more people. Recently, we became also a 1915I provider. And the difference with 1959, we'll actually talk about the similarity real quick. So the similarity is that all three programs offer care coordination and peer support. Care coordination is more of a case manager role where, we're helping with employment, housing, making sure they're getting signed up for the services that they need and that they have access to the community and, they're building up their supports. Peer support, as I'm sure many of you have heard of, is really having individuals that share their lived experience, coming in to kind of walk alongside that client and be there for them, talk to them when they're having like a struggle with, gosh, I'm really thinking about drinking today, or gosh, going through the child protection timeline with my kiddos in court is scary. And they're really people, again, that can really highlight their lived experience to be there for that person. Now, Free Through Recovery and Community Connect, you could say that primarily those programs serve individuals that have been incarcerated or have a lot, addiction struggles, substance use disorder, mental health, things like that. The 1915I is more of supporting individuals that need a higher level of care with like the mental health, behavioral health assistance. And you also have to be on Medicaid insurance to qualify for that. The biggest thing that F5 is known for is our transitional living, as again, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about. And so we have housing in Minnesota, North Dakota, and I'll get into our Minnesota services in just a minute. But in Fargo-Moorhead, we have 2 properties that can house up to 19 men. And those two properties are fourplexes. They're not just two homes. So don't worry, we're not pushing people into a tiny little home. We're really big on making sure that people that are, in our homes feel like it's actually their home and they have space and it's comfortable and stuff like that. In Moorhead, we have one property that can have up to 4 men in it. Fargo, our women's housing can actually have 6 women. And we just opened that again back in October. And it has been super, super great to be able to open that and offer that as a service. In Bismarck, North Dakota, we have 2 properties housing up to 11 men. Grand Forks, one property that can house up to 4, and Minot, one property that can house up to 9 men. The cool thing, another caveat about the North Dakota stuff is that they have a program in North Dakota called RAP, which I have down at the bottom, which is Recovery Housing Assistance Programming. Basically, the state came out with a program to cover somebody's living expenses at a transitional home, recovery home, whatever you'd like to call it, for the first 12 weeks. And I cannot tell you guys how awesome that has been, because we get a lot of individuals that come to us from, being incarcerated for a long period of time or treatment. And it's not a good feeling, basically having to instantly feel like, oh gosh, I have to pay this organization money the day that I move in. And so we're really, really, really grateful to have that program in North Dakota. And it's been such an asset. Individuals are able to come to us, we're able to help them get employed, and they don't have to feel like their program fees are falling behind. We're super flexible. We're not ever going to ask somebody to leave if they're late on their program fees. We set up payment plans, stuff like that. And a couple of big things that I'd like to point out about our transitional living. I think what is great about F5 is, again, that we support people no matter what their recovery journey looks like, right? Whether that's medicated assisted treatment, whether that's 12-step meetings, whether they want to go to refuge recovery and yoga as their, recovery supports. We really like to identify what is working for that individual and just kind of hit the ground running with them, however we can help them. We do have a phase system that we put into place at F5, which I think has been phenomenal since we started. And I'll just give you guys a quick example is, the first 30 days, they have to really kind of get to know their recovery community, get a mentor, a sponsor, a recovery coach, peer support, whatever that looks like for them. And we also want to encourage people, over time to start paying off fines. How can we help you get your license back? Things like that. I always love sharing and reiterating the fact that our transitional living homes at F5 are not just a roof over somebody's head. It's a supportive program. We do a lot of grilling and community events. We have volunteers that buy Christmas presents for, the residents and housing participants at our transitional living homes for the kiddos, and, just again, kind of support them no matter what their path looks like. I did share just a couple of the qualifications and some program information on there too. And just so you guys all know, this information is listed on our website as well. So, again, we're really known for our transitional living. I'll also share about our Moorhead house. So again, in North Dakota, we have a lot more services available to the housing participants of North Dakota transitional living homes that we offer. In Moorhead, again, we just kind of started this phase program, but the cool thing is that we're big enough now to where we can also offer the same care coordination and mentorship in the Moorhead house as we do all of the other houses. We think it's huge. And even though we don't have any funding tied to the Moorhead house, we're really just grateful that we can, kind of tap into other resources that we have to support that house, because we look at it like all of our houses should have the same programming and support, regardless of, if we have any financial support from state entities and stuff like that. So that is pretty much all I have about F5. So if I wanted to turn it back over to you and you can kind of filter out some questions, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you, Christy. I've known of F5. I've been out in the FM area for over 20 years, and I've heard of F5 project, and you guys had a couple of different events that I've attended just to be able to, wrap myself into the community and just kind of understand and know. So you guys are doing great things. I've gone onto the website. It's very informative to be able to let people know about your services. So thank you so much for, agreeing to come on and sharing your experience, and also sharing with them the different services. I know that there are a lot of services that are in North Dakota, and so one of the things that one of the questions that is here is, you know, are they planning on bringing more of the programming to the Minnesota House, or is it just funding available? Like as far as you know,
Mhm.
North Dakota is funding a couple of different things for the North Dakota side. So are you just waiting for kind of some funding for that in order to bring more programs, or you have a
So
plan?
that's a great question, and I'm glad that was brought up. Because recently, I accepted a position at F5 as the Minnesota Advancement Manager, aka F5 is going to start focusing more on our services that we do have to offer in Minnesota. And so right now we're looking into different funding in the county, like becoming a GRH slash housing support provider, what that would look like for us, just to kind of take the load off when individuals do come into our homes. Again, we have started offering care coordination and mentorship to all of our residents. They've always gotten it, but we've really kind of formalized it for the Moorhead House, even though we don't have any funding tied to it. Minnesota is a completely different beast than North Dakota. It's been a little difficult to kind of navigate tapping into different things that could help us expand. But right now, our mission for Minnesota is really kind of building relationships all over the state and really figuring out which communities we could really kind of help with and how that would work for the community as well as F5. So, if anybody, knows of any opportunities, we're willing, we go into the jails. We just had a wonderful meeting with Clay County Jail. And they're very open and receptive to, guys, you have services in Moorhead. Let's bring you in. That's one thing that we love to do is enter the jails to not just share about our resources, but to inspire people on, pretty beautiful stories of success coming from whatever your background looks like. So we do have a goal of expanding. We would love to get women's transitional living in Moorhead at some point too, and so on and so forth.
No, I think that would be really great because, clients that I've worked with in the past,
Mhm.
it's just such a hard topic to be able to find housing. And also another thing is sometimes the women that are incarcerated when they're coming out, they have families, they have children that are now going back into their care. And so trying to find some type
Mhm.
of housing that will accept them and accept their
Yeah.
background, that's important. So that would be really great. Another question that we have is for Jessica. And so I know that back in your presentation, you were talking about different offenses that were expungible and not expungible. If you were just a regular person looking for that information, where's a good website or where's a good place to be able to find out if your offense is something that's expungible or not? Where should we go to first?
That's a great question, and it's unfortunately there's not a great answer to it. I was
That's
trying to
okay.
find it and ended up just going like deep into the weeds of the statutes. I will say the court website does have some information. It's not comprehensive, but it has kind of the general guidelines. So I can pop that link into the chat.
Yeah, if you can throw that link into the chat, and that kind of throws us into another question is, so I'm a person that's coming out of being incarcerated and it's been a while since my offense has, been there, get say 4 or 5 years. Um, the best place to start is the best place to start to say, okay, hey, we're going to go over to F5 and we're going to, ask them to assist us. Or is the best place to start, hey, let's go to legal services and, apply and see, hey, is this something that, we can do on our own? Or like if you were a person coming out, where would you advise people to go first? What's their first step?
I think it depends on the goal. Like if their goal is just to, because legal services is limited in what we do. Like we do legal services, but a lot of things aren't necessarily legal issues. So if the goal is to get an expungement or get information about expungements or pardons, I would say call legal services. But if the goal is more like seeing what other resources are out there, getting, I don't know, more like caseworker or social worker involvement, something like that, help with getting jobs, I think organizations like F5 are probably the better place.
Perfect. No, thank you for that. Um, oh, so question for F5 here and for Christy, do you have to be a felon to get services? Or does it
That
matter what criminal record you have?
So we get that question a lot, actually. And I will say this. So, for example, with our transitional living homes were essentially created to prioritize individuals with felony backgrounds because they have a way higher barrier than individuals that don't have a felony background. Does that mean we're going to turn somebody away? No, because we also look at it like, let's take preventative measures as well, too, right? Let's say somebody's really struggling with substance use and they just got out of jail. They don't have any felonies, but they have other crimes. We're going to help that person. We don't want them to get a felony. We want to come in as soon as we can, but also in the latter half if that happens. We will likely prioritize, an individual with a felony, but we'll never turn anybody away depending on their background. I did include some eligibility things. Unfortunately, right now we cannot accept anybody that has any sex crimes on their record, for example. But I will say that, in terms of everything else, we do look at everybody's situation 100% independently. So and we have accepted people that don't have felony backgrounds. As far as care coordination and peer support in North Dakota, we help anybody regardless what their background is like in those programs. Mm-hmm.
No, that's perfect. I know that, some people that are coming out of jail, they're unsure of their resources and not everybody is a felon. Maybe it could just be something quick. I did want to mention that Walter had put into the chat about Law Help MN. The information that is listed on expungements. Law Help MN is an amazing website that state support assists with to be able to let people know of the questions, the FAQs that are available for any type of like civil legal issue that you may have. It also, oh, and I see Mary's face on there. Mary is our guru for state support. And if Mary, do you have 5 seconds or so or more to be able to kind of give us some information on law help? Because you can talk about law help better than I can.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm going to see if I can pull my screen up here and tell me if you all see the Law Help homepage right now.
Yes, we can see it. Looks great.
Okay, so here's the Law Help homepage, and thank you, Walter, for mentioning it. I will let everybody know that Law Help MN is predominantly dedicated to civil legal issues in Minnesota. So everything on the website is all of our resources are created, or I should say 95% of them are created by attorneys. So our resource library of hundreds of fact sheets and booklets are all reviewed annually by attorneys for the most current civil legal information in Minnesota. And some civil legal topics are things like housing, immigration, your public benefits. I'll just click over to our self-help library. Which is where a lot of folks go. We're here right now. These tiles represent the different topics that we have. Criminal law is not something that legal aid normally helps with. However, as we found out from Jessica today, there are some instances where legal aid and some criminal matters do overlap, and expungements is one of them. So for the information we have, we'll click on the criminal tile. We've gotten so many requests for this kind of information, and where there is overlap with legal aid's civil work, we try to provide information. If you click on the subtopic for expungement and criminal records, you'll see the information that we have. At the top are our fact sheets. We have a fact sheet about criminal records. We've got a fact sheet in English about the new marijuana laws in Minnesota and getting those convictions erased. Specifically, this is for Minnesota. I just wanted to mention that again. Public and private information about criminal records, which this one is just more of like an informational guide for just general topics. I know, Christy, earlier you mentioned the difference between pardons and expungements. I think that's really helpful. A lot of our fact sheets are definitions of terms for folks, so that people that are either pro se litigants or just an average person who wants to know, what is what information, for example, in this one is public Is my criminal, what information in my criminal history is public? And this kind of goes into what is, are my arrests public information? So a lot of our stuff is kind of question and answer based. And we also try to give links to either legal help that's available, the stuff on the court's website that may be able to help somebody that's a pro se person or a do-it-yourself individual who isn't working with an attorney, where they're, for example, here, who can look at public records. Okay, anyone can get the information for public court records, and this is the MinSys database, where you can see who can look at private records. This is sometimes information that people who are thinking about expungement or pardon are interested in knowing. So a lot of it is definition based, and just to give an overview of maybe some of your questions about criminal records. A lot of our stuff is available in multiple languages. Spanish, Hmong, and Somali are the three main languages that our stuff is available in. There are some other fact sheets available in other languages. We'll go back here and look at the criminal records fact sheet. Again, a question and answer kind of based scenario here. What's in my record? What information is reported, and this kind of touches back on stuff that Jessica went into detail in her presentation. Misdemeanors, not quite as intense as what you had, and as in depth, Jessica. So that was a great presentation. What doesn't have to be reported, where are they kept, and then getting copies of your full criminal history. Again, can I get things removed from my criminal record? This will go specifically into expungement, not pardon. We really don't have anything on pardons, and it was really helpful for me to listen to the presentation today and hear what both you and Christy had to say about pardons. And I'm interested in that, just as somebody who provides information to the public about what is out there, not just from a legal perspective, but also just what other supports, non-legal supports, are available for folks. And so I appreciate what you shared. And here's the link to the Min Courts help topics for expungements. And there's good information on the court site. And then to find help with an expungement. Here are some places that you can contact your local legal aid office to see if they help with an expungement. If they don't in your particular county in Minnesota, you might want to reach out to the Attorney General's office about expungement. Also, Volunteer Lawyers Network of Minnesota helps with free services, sometimes brief advice, sometimes more in different parts of the state. And there's a link to Volunteer Lawyers Network then, or you can call them. Also, the Legal Rights Center for Hennepin and the Neighborhood Justice Center for Ramsey do incredible work for people with criminal law expungements that they're trying to get specifically. So they have a little bit more resource dedicated to that than like a civil legal aid organization potentially would. And it does depend on where you live. I mean, it would be nice if we had, the resources that were equal and accessible throughout the state, but it does depend on where you live and what those kinds of resources. So here, as I said, in our criminal tab, we do have these. Please take a look, everybody. Other resources are shown below the fact sheets. Again, a link to Minnesota courts, how to expunge a cannabis offense specifically is now available if you want to specifically get that expunged. The University of Minnesota Center for Urban and Regional Affairs has a steps for asking for a criminal expungement on their website. So that's kind of a step-by-step guide that you might want to look at. Jessica mentioned getting a court fee waiver, which used to be known as Informa Pauperis. There's a link there, and that's on most of our help pages. Information about service of process. It can get complicated. If you can get legal help, you should try, as our other two presenters have mentioned. But there's ways to go about doing it yourself as well. So I hope that helps people.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see if I
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. You always know exactly where to go on Law Help MN. And just know if for some reason you are not in the state of Minnesota and you are still looking for some documents and some help, you can go to lawhelp.org. You can choose the state that you wish, and then they'll take you to the state that maybe you have your issue or your conviction in, and they'll be able to kind of guide you that way. So thank you again, Mary, for that one. I did also want to mention, because I know we're coming close to time, Walter, which has been very informative. So thank you very much, Walter. I wanted to let you know about the AG expungement tour. The AG office is doing an expungement tour in Minnesota. They are hitting up a couple of the cities that are needing some expungements. And they wanted to make it available to those citizens. They just had one, I believe, in Bemidji in May. So you can feel free to go on to the AG, Minnesota AG website. And I believe that the expungement tour is listed there. Also, Walter had put into the chat where people can go to get their expungements right on the website there. So that's great. Christy also did put some really great information in there in regards to the pardon. So feel free to refer back to the chat, and we'll make sure to, if there's any last words that Christy or Jessica want to say, we can give them just a couple of moments to be able to say those. Was there any last things that you guys wanted to mention, ladies?
I will share one more thing as a
Sure.
person that applied for a pardon. It was way easier to apply for a pardon than an expungement because how the expungement laws are set, there was a timeline between crimes where if you committed one crime within a certain amount of another crime, you didn't qualify for expungement. And no offense, but when you're kind of in a cycle of addiction, we don't think, well, I better wait a few months, to do something bad, right? And so, if you're working with anybody, you guys, that has kind of a consistent criminal history, it might be in their best interest to kind of really focus on the pardon aspect. So just wanted to share.
No, thank you, Christy. And it's good to come and listen to somebody that's actually in the process or have gone through the process. So I really appreciate that you're able to share that with us. Jessica, was there any last words that you wanted to kind of mention quick before we end today?
Yeah, just kind of going off of what Christy said, I think expungements are theoretically like designed to be for more people to be eligible and to be able to get them. But Christy's right, like if you don't qualify for every part of the expungement, you're not going to get it. Whereas pardons are broader eligibility, but a little bit harder to get, I would say overall. So that's kind of theoretical differences between the two.
No, and that's great. And that's a really good point too. I'm going to put this up on the screen here so I don't forget. But if for some reason you guys would like some more information in regards to expungements and pardons, we will go ahead and put their information at the end of the slide here. If you would like to be a presenter, if your organization has some resources that you think would be beneficial, feel free to let me know. My contact information is listed and email information. You can also use your phone and click on the QR code if you would like to book an appointment just to kind of chit chat with me about what's going on in your organization and how you feel it can help. Also, I wanted to make sure to list the organizations that were helping us today. So let me just get on over to that. I just want to make sure that you guys had that information. LSNM, F5 project. Hopefully there's more information to come at the end of the year or next year in regards to expungements and pardons as new laws present itself. If you have any further questions, feel free to let us know. Thank you guys so much for attending, and you guys have a good rest of your day.